Screen again. So I hope we are good to go, right? Shall I start?
Yes, we can start. Now, session is live streamed on YouTube. We can start it.
Cool. All right. So hi, everyone. Many thanks to Ananjay and the Jarvis Club for inviting me to this session. It's great to talk to all of you from the BS Data Science program. So first of all, I wanted to kind of structure this presentation around a few themes. I think many of you are seeking data science placements in top companies. So I thought I'd talk a bit about my journey and what my experiences were, both getting into a data science role and what I experienced within that role. After that, I also want to talk a bit about my journey towards graduate study at Stanford. As Ananjay mentioned, I'm now starting my master's degree at Stanford. So I've left my job at Microsoft and moving to Stanford. So some of you might be aspiring for graduate study as well in the US or in other foreign countries. So I thought I would also talk about what I did and how I built a profile that got me into some of these good universities. So if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. I will dedicate some time towards the end to kind of answer your questions. And Ananjay, please, have a look through the chat and keep filtering through the questions.
Yeah, I'm looking all the questions. Like people will ask.
Cool. So how do we start? So first, I wanted to talk about, why is data science exciting? So I don't think I really need to explain a lot about this because all of you have chosen data science as the stream that you want to explore, during your bachelor's with IITM. And but I just want to talk about my a few key aspects that I feel makes data science really crucial and important for us at this point of time. So first of all, as all of you know, the AI wave is on. We've had ChatGPT and several other advancements that have come up in the recent time, which makes data science a really lucrative career. The second thing is that job opportunities are on the rise. And I specifically say this because when I was in my third year, that was, I think, 2019 or 2020, there were very few companies that were actually hiring specific data scientists or data science interns. But today, if you see, most companies have two openings, one for software engineer and the other for a data scientist, right? The two streams have separated, and now you have very specific and dedicated roles towards data science. In fact, some companies have even gone on to specialize within data science and say, we don't want generic data scientists, we want NLP specialists or computer vision specialists or even LLM specialists or generative AI specialists. So I feel job opportunities are on the rise. So this is a great time to kind of get started with data science and to also build your ability and strength in data science for a strong, long-lasting career. The third thing is that data science provides us with the opportunity to create impact in almost every industry. I mean, machine learning and data science may have started off in the software industry, say, for example, in the Azure cloud, or Google would use it for search, and so on. But today you see data science touching even healthcare or real estate. All of our apps like Swiggy, Zomato, or all of them use data science in some way or the other in order to make their services more impactful and efficient. So no matter which industry you want to work and contribute towards, data science will always have a place for you. The fourth thing is that data science is still a budding field of research. I mean, you would see a lot of publications, research papers, and so on in data science, but there is so much left to explore. And the reason this is beneficial for us is that, we are all in the starting stage of our exploration of data science, and it isn't very hard to kind of get to the top of the field or to get specialized in a particular field at this point of time, because there is still a long way to go before we fully understand how these machine learning models work. There are a lot of questions that remain unanswered, and that makes this time really crucial for us and beneficial for us to get into the data science career. And finally, something that I think all of us would be very much interested in is money. I think data science careers are among the best paying in the industry today, especially if you look at the software industry. So that is definitely something that benefits anyone who joins a data science career. So now, let me talk a bit about my journey. I think Ananjay already touched upon this, but this has been kind of like the 4 places I've been through in the last 6 years. So I started at IIT Madras in 2017 as a BTech student. So how I got into data science is very special. So my JEE rank only allowed me to get into the chemical engineering department at IIT Madras. Now, chemical engineering is definitely quite exciting, and there are a lot of wonderful things you can do there, but it wasn't something that fully appealed to me. So I started looking at parallel tracks. What can I do along with chemical engineering that would be interesting to me and would also give me a career that I aspire towards? And at that point of time, I mean, this data science and machine learning were just entering online courses. So, I had things like Coursera courses or stuff like that, which allowed me to kind of get an initial understanding of data science. But as I started exploring it, I really loved the field. There was a good combination of math plus software engineering that kind of made data science really interesting for me. Luckily enough, after my first semester at IIT Madras, I got a branch change. So branch change is an option that is given to the top, 10, 15 students after the first semester. So based on my CGPA, I was able to change my branch to electrical engineering, which, kind of appealed to me more. But at the same time, I kept my interest in data science. So I would say it was a matter of luck, just because, I wanted to explore a parallel field. I got into data science, and then I kind of stuck with it in the long term. And then the second thing is I joined as a data science intern in my second year at GE. So GE has a healthcare division that works on medical devices, and I did some work in NLP and machine learning at GE. And then at the beginning of my third year, a lot of companies came for campus placements to IITM. One of them was Microsoft. Honestly, I didn't expect to get into Microsoft at that time. I felt it was too high to aim for, but I nevertheless, sat for the interviews, and luckily enough, I got through. So that made me a data science intern first at Microsoft, which led to a full-time offer. So that is how for the last 2 years, I've been working as a data and applied scientist. So I don't want to talk much about what I did at Microsoft because that may not be very relevant to you, but to talk in brief, I was part of the cybersecurity research team. So we built machine learning models to improve Microsoft's cybersecurity capabilities. So that would mean, NLP models to detect some kinds of malicious app naming or impersonation of logos, or anomaly detection to look at suspicious API calls and so on. So a lot of different machine learning models that we built at very large scale. So we managed around 10 million to 1 billion apps, and it was just a 2-member data science team, me and another data scientist. It was a relatively new team. So we got to do a lot of very novel and exciting work at Microsoft. So finally, this is what I would be going to next, my MS in electrical engineering with a focus on AI and machine learning at Stanford, which I would be starting. Actually, I'm flying out to the US this Saturday. So, in a week's time, I will be starting my master's program. All right. So now coming to one of the things that many of you may be curious about, interviewing for data science roles. So I will talk about this specifically with respect to my journey to Microsoft, but I think much of this would translate to other companies as well, because, the data science profile as such is kind of fairly generic, and the skills that you need are also kind of well defined by now, given that the space has fairly matured. So I believe that the next few slides will kind of give you an idea of what to focus on and how much to focus on which domain to kind of enable you to do well in data science roles. Okay, so I feel that, to interview for a data science role successfully, you need to kind of focus on 3 aspects. One is software engineering, second is math or statistics, and the third is machine learning. So one of the mistakes that a lot of folks do is they always focus on the third part around machine learning a lot. But you must remember that companies, especially for initial internship roles, focus a lot on the basics. So your software engineering skills and your math skills are also very crucial to succeed in these interviews. So now let me go one by one. First, I'll talk about the software engineering aspect. So when I say software engineering, I mean, there could be a lot of aspects within it, but I largely talk about coding here. So your ability to, take, you get a problem, you kind of have to code it up, produce a solution that passes all your test cases. That is your basic coding challenge, right? Many companies have this as part of their screening round. Even before you talk face to face with an interviewer, you will need to write a coding test and pass it in order to get to an interview. So this is a really important first stage to pass. So a few pieces of advice as far as the software engineering aspect is considered. Start early, because coding is hard. It's hard for everyone, not just for you or me. You need to start early and practice very regularly. So I would say, every week at least tackle 3 to 4 problems whenever you get time, and keep improving your standards. So you've got to learn a lot of different algorithms, how to tackle a problem from different angles. You should know dynamic programming with graphs, stacks, linked lists, and so on. And these need to come, uh, very smoothly to you, in the sense that you don't have a lot of time during the test to kind of think and derive everything. So it's only with a lot of practice that you can make yourself very strong in answering these questions quickly. So that is the first aspect that I wanted to touch upon. And the final point is really crucial. In fact, I made the mistake of understanding this quite later on in my coding prep. That is, don't just focus on the solution. You get a problem, you kind of solve it, and then a lot of times we just leave it. Once it passes the test cases, we leave it. But it's really important that you go in and see how other people have solved it. Sometimes there are much quicker ways. Instead of a 20-line piece of code, you will have a 3 or 4-line piece of code that will solve the same problem much more efficiently. So learning from others, learning from editorial solutions provided on these websites is also very important to help you in the long run. So I'm also mentioning a few resources that will be useful to you for coding. For practice, please use Geeks for Geeks or Lead Code. Both of them are excellent websites with a lot of coding challenges. So you can start from the easy problems and then migrate towards medium and hard level problems. So that's why it takes a lot of time, and you need to start early. The second part around competing, I didn't do much of this, but it's also helpful to kind of code in a competitive environment. So you could try out coding challenges both on CodeChef and Codeforces. These are slightly harder and maybe a bit harder than the kind of questions you may encounter in interviews. But at least the practice part around Geeks for Geeks and Lead Code is really crucial for you to get started. Okay, now the second part is around math and statistics. So as I already mentioned, do not ignore these basics. They are really crucial, not just for your interview prep, but in the long term. If you want to be successful at machine learning, you need to know your math. You need to know how to derive backpropagation equations or loss functions, gradients, and so on. So to do this, first thing, you need to know linear algebra and matrices really well, because even if you have to code up a simple linear regression in Python, you need to know how to multiply matrices, what kind of dimensions to match, and things like that. So linear algebra and matrices, please take the relevant courses that IITM is offering you, or do it online, does not matter, but you've got to take this very seriously and make sure that you're good at linear algebra. Second thing is calculus, especially if differentiation is really important, not much of integration, but still you need to know how to kind of differentiate with chain rule and things like that in order to derive your gradient equation. So calculus is the second part. Finally, probability and statistics. I had a lot of statistics questions in my screening round to Microsoft. You need to know all your A/B hypothesis testing and different kinds of distributions, probability of some occurrence, things like that. So there are a lot of good books, both interview prep books as well as standard probability books that will help you get practice with such questions. And you could also take courses at IITM that will improve your skills around probability and statistics. So I've only mentioned courses at IITM here because I've had excellent courses at IITM, which start from the very basics of yeah, I think somebody has unmuted their mic. If okay, thanks. Okay.
I've noted.
Yeah. So I feel that the courses that I took at IITM were excellent in the sense that they started from the very basics of each concept, be it linear algebra or probability, and took us right till the end. Even if you go to the most advanced company on the planet and they ask you a question in probability, you will be able to answer it using the basics and theory that you've learned at IITM. So that is one strength that courses at IITM offer that you must leverage during your time here. Now, the third part, which all of us love a lot, that is machine learning. So to do well at machine learning, first, we must master our Python libraries. NumPy, Matplotlib, Pandas are most crucial. Second is your standard machine learning algorithms like linear regression, logistic regression, random forests, and so on. And it is not just enough that you by heart the equations or know when to use what, but you should also know how they get derived. A lot of courses both at IITM and online will teach you the derivations of how to get the loss function. Say, for example, the interviewer could ask a question like, okay, this scenario has changed a bit. How will you change the loss function to account for this? And things like that. So you need to know the ins and outs of these standard algorithms very well. Next thing is deep learning. Here you can go, I would say you don't need to go at that deep a level, but rather you need to know the basics of CNNs, RNNs, LSTMs, transformers. GPTs are more recent, but it's good to kind of know how GPT works internally. It uses a transformer internally. So some questions around, your current knowledge may also come up. So basic knowledge of these simple deep learning architectures will also help you. Finally, machine learning projects. So this is also very crucial because, anytime you have a question that is, anytime you have an interview round, they always start with what kind of projects have you done in machine learning? So if you do have a few interesting projects to talk about, you could spend a substantial amount of time, say the first 10 to 15 minutes, discussing this project. So the advantage is at that point of time, you are at the driver's seat because you've done this project and the interviewer is going to inquire only about what you've done. So that kind of gives you an opportunity to, showcase your knowledge. And then you can go towards interview specific questions. So showing some amount of experience, either through hackathons or Kaggle projects or through research with professors would be really helpful. So I think there is a question from Sarfraz. You can go ahead if you're able to unmute.
Thanks a lot. Actually, sir, I have a question like I'm preparing for the data science and I'm enrolled in the diploma program. Sir, how much DSA is required? Because I have not prepared for DSA yet, and still I'm preparing. I have completed my maths part and going towards the machine learning foundation. So, is the DSA required to be a good data scientist or not? This is my question. Thank
Okay,
you.
so yeah, so the first block that I mentioned around software engineering is basically coding and DSA, right? So I feel it is important. But you need to have kind of like, see, if you go so deep into DSA, you would not have time to practice your machine learning problems or to take up projects. So there needs to be a cutoff limit. Generally, it's like you need to be very good at the easy level problems in Lead Code or Geeks for Geeks and somewhat good at the medium level problem. So that level of DSA knowledge will kind of help you get through most data science interviews. Does that help you?
Okay. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot.
Sure. Okay. Cool. So I've also mentioned a few resources that I found useful for machine learning. First, courses at IITM. Now, one of the unique aspects about courses at IITM, again, is that, they start from a very basic level and they are mathematically very intense and they go up to a very high level. So if you want to like understand something at a very advanced level, courses at IITM are excellent. But at the same time, I've also taken some online courses. So all of you may know Andrew Ng's Coursera course, both machine learning and deep learning specializations. One of the advantages I found here is that it gave me a more intuitive feel for the same topic. So it does not go too deep into the math, but instead helps us. So for example, at an interview, generally, if you want to explain a concept, you want to use intuitive concepts, right? So I believe that those courses kind of give you that intuitive understanding, which is also important. So understanding at an intuitive level and then going deep into the math. So when you combine both of those courses together, you become excellent at each topic. The second resource that I found super useful, especially for these recent advancements like in deep learning and transformers, are a set of blogs by a person called Jay Alamar. So you could Google and check that out. He writes very nice blogs for things like transformers. So he explains it intuitively with visualizations, diagrams, and so on, and goes at a very slow pace. It's a written blog, it's not a video course, but that kind of very much helped me to understand these recent things like GPTs, transformers, and so on at a much better level. So you could also have a look at it to kind of improve your skills around the deep learning space. Cool. Ayush has a question.
Yes, sir. Sir, one thing is like in when I sit for a job interview or anything, like are Coursera and Udemy certificates like valuable in that position, or they don't consider such certifications?
Generally, I would say they don't carry much value. I mean, the benefit of these courses is that you learn, right? And what you take back is largely the learning. So those certificates don't really carry much value, especially because you're already in the data science field, right? You are taking courses at IITM, which are going to be much more valuable on your resume, because these courses are only taken by a specific, special set of students, and they are taught by very top professors at IITM. Whereas if you talk about Udemy courses, they are largely taken by a large number of students, and to be honest, they are not as hard as the courses at IITM are, right? So I wouldn't say the certificates are not something you must pay much value to, but rather focus on the learning.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Okay, so yes, my final piece of advice to many of you here, I've said have a dream career, not a dream company, and this is something really crucial and a mistake that I've seen a lot of people make. The reason being, a lot of times people fantasize over a particular company and forget about what kind of career they want. Because, as I've worked at multiple companies in the past, what I've seen is the culture or the opportunities that a company provides will be heavily dependent on the team or the manager that you are working with, right? None of these opportunities are generalizable to an entire company. There are thousands of people working in a company. What you must aim towards is a career that satisfies you and where you can kind of build your skills and focus on the kind of research and exploration that interests you. So another way this will help is, say, for example, right now you are aiming for some particular top company in mind and you don't get that, right? There is no need to be disappointed, because unlike, your bachelor's degree, a company is not, it's not a zero-sum game, in the sense you don't end up with the same company for the rest of your life. You can always switch in the future. But what you can't switch is your career. So you've got to ensure that, say you're interested in data science, do not kind of jump into some analytics role or say some software engineering role just because you're getting into a better company with that. Stick to your career, stick to what really interests you, and make sure that you start your career with the opportunity to grow in that space. Right. For example, even when I was interviewing, there were companies of different sorts. There were data science companies. There were also banking companies like Goldman Sachs and JP Morgan, which offered a slightly different profile. So I found a lot of folks who were not really concerned about, what kind of career they wanted, but rather which company paid the best. And, they were just jumping towards that. But it's always crucial that you think about what kind of career you want. Company is something you can always optimize for in the future. Okay, so now I think I also want to talk a bit about my journey towards graduate study at Stanford. So I think many of you may be in the initial years of your bachelor's program, so you may not have considered graduate study yet. And some of you may also be under the impression that, this is something you could do after your bachelor's degree. But what I learned is that to be successful with graduate study, you need to kind of start planning early. You need to build a strong profile early on. and focus on a lot of crucial aspects during your bachelor's degree itself, which will enable you to have a strong profile by the end of your 4 years. So I want to kind of talk about three aspects of building a strong profile. One of the main advantages is that a lot of these things are common with what I already mentioned. So if you do these three things well, you are also going to be good at interviewing for data science roles. The only exception is that you need to focus a little bit more on your academic strengths and your research. So let me kind of take you through these, and then I'll also take questions around this. So the first thing is that for building a strong profile, you need to have a good undergraduate academic performance. It is really crucial. Like if you want to get into some of the top US universities, it is almost given that you need to be, say, within the top 5 or top 10 of your class. I mean, without that, there is almost no point in applying unless there is something else in your profile that would compensate for it. So I believe that, what matters is that you need to maintain a high CGPA, aim for high class rank and awards. And something else that's really crucial is to take relevant courses. So for me, it mattered a lot because I was in the electrical engineering department, but given that I was largely interested in the machine learning and AI space, I had to take courses in CS theory, data science, machine learning, advanced ML like deep learning, etc. During my bachelor's degree itself, so that it reflects on my transcript. And universities do look at this when they select students, because they need to make sure that you know the basics so that you're good for graduate study later. Second thing is your professional experience. Now, this is something that people may kind of differ with me on. So I made the choice of kind of going to work for 2 years before my master's, and it kind of benefited me in a few ways. Firstly, it gave me more time to apply for masters. I had to write exams like GRE, TOEFL, prepare my statement of purpose, get recommendations from professors. So it gave me a lot more time to kind of do this peacefully, instead of doing this while at the same time tackling my exams at IITM. Secondly, it also helped me understand the industry as such. I really enjoyed my time at Microsoft, so I felt that this is a career that I want to continue in the future. So that also kind of helped me. That is a unique kind of perspective that you get once you work in the long term. And it could also improve your chances of, joining the industry back in the future. Now, one thing that is really crucial for your success in having a strong profile for masters is your research and publications. So I had a talk with Ananjay some time back, and he was asking me, how do I kind of get into research? And this is a question that a lot of folks ponder over. So I've kind of split this process into 5 parts. Each part is super crucial. So first, the first thing is get started. I mean, as long as you just think, okay, I want to do research, but I'm still, very early on at it. Let me finish the first 3 years and then I'll think about it. Let me take this course before I start with research. That kind of an approach is just going to keep delaying the process. So it's really important that you get started. So, and start small. So start with, basic course projects you may have at IITM, or mini projects on Kaggle. There are hackathons that come up every day or every week that you can tackle, wherein they give you interesting data science data sets, and you've got to build a simple model to solve some problems. So you can start small, but what matters is that you do get started. So, your very first project that you do will teach you a lot. I mean, you may think that you know a lot about the theory, but you also need to apply that in practice and see how you can fine tune and modify your data science models to actually work well. So that is why it's important that you get started. Secondly, choose a field. So within data science, data science has already grown substantially. So there are multiple fields within it, like natural language processing, computer vision, deep learning, LLMs and generative AI are another new space that has, recently gained prominence. So choose a field within data science that you want to do research in. And then you've got to start reading recent papers in the field. So this is really crucial, because if you want to do research successfully, you first of all need to know what research is and what kind of research already exists. So for example, if you think about the NLP space, much of the recent research is in the field of transformers. Initially it was about, creating good word embeddings. Now it's about transformers and generative AI and so on. So get an understanding of how people do research, how they start from a problem, explore different solutions for it, and arrive at a good solution. So start reading these papers, and this is something you can do on your own. You still don't have to depend on friends or a professor or anything to guide you. Just go to Google, start looking for recent papers and read them. That will also help you understand whether this field is good for you, or you go back to step 2 and choose a new field. Next one is start your research. So there are 2 ways you can do this. Either you decide on a problem of your own. Perhaps from reading papers you encountered an interesting problem you may want to tackle, so you could start your research in that field. Or something that I did, and a lot of people would advise, is that you approach professors either at IITM or in other universities outside, and start working with them. So one of the things is that, professors would typically work with a lot of PhD students. And as an undergraduate, they may put you with one of these PhD students to kind of assist them. And the initial work may not be that interesting. You may just have to run experiments for them, or do some of that grunt work, which may not be very interesting. But it is really crucial that you do it so that you build trust with the professor, you build a strong relationship, and you can go towards actually building models of your own and contributing to real research. Finally, make sure that you also publish papers in good conferences, because that is, the ultimate certification that you are a researcher. Because you can always write in your resume that, okay, you worked with this professor, you worked on this project and so on. But if you get your paper published in a good peer-reviewed conference, that is, a true indication that you are an able researcher. And that will kind of boost your profile a lot when it comes to applying for graduate study. I think most of the students who've got into Stanford will have at least 1 or 2 papers. I had 4 papers that definitely helped my profile. So this is really crucial. And one of the things about writing papers is that writing your first research paper is going to be the hardest. So I published 1 paper, in the NLP space. I had a lot to learn. I mean, starting from how do I write a paper using the LaTeX language, to how do I structure different sections. I had to read through a lot of other papers to understand what is that style of writing, things like that. And then identifying conferences and publishing. But the second paper onwards, it was super quick because I already know everything that I need to know. So yeah, right. So basically the second, third, and fourth papers were much easier. So that's why you should get started early and kind of build your experience early on. Cool. So my final piece of advice before I take any questions is, whatever you do it well. Because as I mentioned, I've gone through a lot of different things you must do, both for being successful at graduate study as well as for getting a good job. Obviously, everybody cannot do everything. So what matters is that, whatever you get to do, be it research, do that research really well. So that when you are at an interview, you have a lot to talk about, and no matter how deep they probe, you will still be able to answer those questions. If you are taking a course either online, then basically, do that well. Don't just focus on the certifications, but rather focus on, understanding every concept, doing the assignments honestly, trying everything on your own. Right, that kind of deep exploration into whatever you do is what will actually help you to be successful in the long run. Even if you miss a few things, like for example, some people say you should do a research internship to get masters. I didn't do it. I didn't go to any foreign university and do an internship, but I still got into a lot of the universities I applied to, because the rest of the things like my research and publications, I was able to do it well and compensate for whatever was lacking on my profile. So that's my final piece of advice. Now, anyone has questions, you could raise your hand, or I'll start looking at the chat to answer your questions.
Emil, on the YouTube, one person is asking
Yes.
that is it possible to transit career to data science ML roles with having 2 to 3 years experience as a Python developer?
Sorry, as a what developer?
Python.
Okay. Yes, yeah, definitely. I mean, first of all, Python skills are super crucial for being successful in data science. And data science is still relatively a new field. I mean, if you want to master one subfield of data science, let's say NLP, it's still not that challenging. Maybe 5 years from now, there will be so much more content within each subfield that will make it really challenging, but it is certainly possible. Don't think that you are lagging behind. You can always make that switch, but as I mentioned, get started as soon as you want to. That is most important.
Okay, and we had circulated a form before your when we announced your presence. So
Yes.
some people asked the questions there. So first we will take questions from there, then we will ask questions from the chat. Is it fine?
Sure. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so someone is asking, how often do you come up with occurrences when you need to work with technical teams from multiple departments regarding the task in hand?
Okay, this is, I think, mostly very specific to Microsoft, but yes, it is very common. So typically what happens is, if I were to take my experience with the cybersecurity team, so in my team, there are three kinds of employees. One is data scientists like me. Second are software engineers who kind of maintain the infrastructure, maintain the quality of the code, set up the UX that is facing the customers and so on. And the third kind are cybersecurity researchers. So these are people who have got degrees in cybersecurity, who don't know much about data science, but they know about the cybersecurity space specifically. So what happens is, I, as a data scientist who knows very little about cybersecurity, will work with them to understand what kind of machine learning models I can build. So they will suggest, this kind of an approach would help. You should look at anomalies from this direction. This kind of feature engineering will be helpful. So that collaboration is very normal, and especially for data scientists. Like, even when I worked at GE Healthcare, I had specialists working on medical machines who would tell me what kind of features to build. So it is very common in the industry.
Okay, so another question is what is the most used tool stack for data science? When you were working in Microsoft, what was your most used tool?
My most useful tool. So since we were working with big data, I work largely with PySpark. A normal Python coding wouldn't help much because we were talking about millions and millions of data points. So PySpark was helpful, but otherwise your generic ML libraries like, say, scikit-learn, NumPy, Matplotlib, all of those are also helpful. Yeah.
Okay, and someone is asking, as a data scientist, what specific skill sets you was having
What
that time?
specific skill sets? So I think that's what I've answered all through, right? I mean, you need to have your software engineering skills to code well, code quickly and accurately. Math and statistics, those form the basis of every ML algorithm. And finally, your machine learning skills. So both your intuitive skills to understand, if you see a problem, this a solution may work, this may not work. That intuition you should always have. You cannot try out every possible solution to figure out a good one. And at the same time, your deep mathematical knowledge to understand how you can tweak each algorithm. Say you're training a deep learning model, you can pull off some kind of code from the internet to build a 3-layer deep neural network with TensorFlow. But say, for example, you have very unbalanced classes, or you want to give more importance to some particular class, you want to change your learning rate or something else, you need to know how these algorithms work internally. So those are the few things that help me. Yeah.
Okay, and another question is that you know that this degree is online, like whole the content is given online and the exams are offline. So what would you suggest to a person? Should the person do this standalone or do it dual degree, as a dual degree?
No, so I didn't get your question. So I understand that it's online. So what is your question?
Question is that the person is asking that as this degree is online, so should a person do BTech or BE with it or do it as a standalone?
Um, I am not exactly sure of how the BS program works. So I thought you need to do another parallel BTech degree. So I am not really sure. So I'm not qualified to answer it. Sorry.
Okay, and all the other questions you had already answered in the session. So now we may take the questions from the chat and the people who had raised their hand.
Yes. So those who've raised your hand, I think one of you can unmute and ask.
Yeah, Sarfaraz Ahmed, you may unmute yourself and ask.
Okay, thanks a lot. So basically, my question is like, as an interviewer and as an in the real industry level, if we talk about, and as an interviewer, how much they're giving preference to the degrees. Say, let me explain it to you. Like, I am not a BTech student. I'm a BCA student. So, are they asking for BTech, or they are really only requiring the skill set? We just need to show the projects or the skills we have, or because I think that it is going to be a weak point for me that I'm not a BTech student.
So
Is this
you're
really the thing?
you're not a BTech. You're saying you're a BS student instead of BTech. Is that
BCA.
BCA? Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. So, what I would say is, I mean, generally they don't even differentiate much among the kind of degree, but generally, the differentiation is among whether you have a bachelor's degree or a master's or a PhD. So that's the kind of segregation they typically look at. So, for example, some of the roles may say only masters and PhD can apply. Some would be only specific to PhD. So that differentiation does exist, but typically I have not seen a differentiation between, say, BTech versus BCA. But yes, I mean, see, there are two stages to get a job, right? One is you need to get shortlisted. So your resume should get shortlisted and you should be called for an interview. For that, your degrees and all of that matters. But after that, to kind of get the job and get to the finish line, your skills are what matter. So as long as you can answer questions from the interviewer, they really don't care what your degree is. So that's it. So first for getting shortlisted, and then your skills matter to get the job. In fact, yeah.
Okay. Thank you. And sir, like, one more question. Only the last question actually. Uh, Sir, actually, basically, I'm asking like, how to approach to these big MNCs. Like, if we don't have any college placements, I don't think so that Google approaches the IITM or the BS program. So how we can apply as off campus?
Okay.
How we can apply? Yeah, for
Yeah.
internship,
So
mainly for internship, so that we get well prepared.
right. So one thing you can do is referrals generally help. So for example, if you know somebody who's working at one of these MNCs, then you can kind of seek a referral from them. So the way to do this is you should be good at networking, right? And you need to kind of build a good network, either some friends who worked in these places. Generally, it's advice if you know them personally. I mean, just sending LinkedIn connections. I mean, mostly people would ignore that because generally people working in MNCs get a lot of these requests and they won't be able to answer them. So generally, if you know somebody at those companies, it's always good to kind of get referrals from them. Second thing you can do is these companies generally organize some kind of hackathons or competitive, competitions, basically, which if you participate in those and do well, then they will take note of you and they would invite you for an interview, even if you don't express interest. So that is the way in which I've seen a lot of people apply off campus, even from, not just IITM, even smaller colleges. So that is another way you can do it. The final thing you can do, of course, if both of these don't work, is apply on their careers portal and then wait for it. So it might work out, it might not, but apply for as many companies as you can. So at least a few you will be lucky to get a call. Yeah.
Okay, Misha, you may unmute yourself. Misha Agarwal.
Yes, sir. So actually, I am currently in the second year of my bachelor's degree, and I'm doing this degree alongside it. And I'm currently on the lookout for internships. And for most of the internships, because I don't really have the kind of specialized knowledge that they're looking for, so it leads me to the confusion as to whether I should focus on my master's education or whether I should go for gaining job experience after my bachelor's. So, do you have any advice for me?
In general, even if I look at what I've done, I did gain work experience after my bachelor's degree. So few ways it helps. So first of all, one of the things that helps you get your resume shortlisted by companies is to have work experience. That will kind of differentiate you from other master students in your cohort who do not have that experience. So it is helpful. to kind of gain that work experience, unless you are in a hurry to kind of complete your education and then settle for a job. Because one drawback is that you get a job and then you need to leave it and then go for masters. So there is a risk involved in that, and not everyone may be comfortable with that. But otherwise, I mean, it's generally advisable to go for a job and gain some experience.
Okay, Ayush, you may unmute yourself. Ayush Konkar.
Yes. So, like as you said, you had done your BTech in electrical engineering. So, as you did your masters in EI, so like I heard that while applying for the foreign universities, you need to submit the reason for change in field during masters, right? So, how did you explain to the universities about it?
Okay, so first of all, my master's in Stanford is in electrical engineering with a specialization in AI. So it's still the same field. I didn't face that issue with Stanford, but I also did apply to other colleges. Like in UCLA, I got MS in computer science. CMU, I got MS in machine learning. So my answer would, I mean, I think you're asking more in that region. So a few things that I mentioned earlier, if I even go back to my slide, in undergraduate academics, right? So take relevant courses. So if you take these relevant courses, that is how you can display that you actually know the computer science and machine learning basics that you need to know to actually do well in graduate studies. So take those courses. You may be in electrical engineering, but you could still take relevant courses to kind of put on your resume or on your transcript. Second thing is, of course, do research, do projects in that field. So that is how you can show that you're truly passionate about that field, and also that you have a lot of experience in that space. So I think these two things will help you. And I did the same. So yeah.
Okay, Ishika, unmute yourself, please.
Yes, sir. Hello, sir. Good afternoon. Sir, I had this question. Does BTech in electrical engineering or in computer science engineering helpful in pursuing career in data science? Like if it
Did she get cut off, Ananjay?
Yeah, I am unmuting her. I think I have to find her. Wait.
Okay. Universities don't offer a bachelor's degree in data science, so your option is to do it in computer science or electrical engineering. But as I already mentioned, just that degree alone will not help you, because computer science itself is a very huge field. You can do your research in compilers or in data structures and algorithms, or in machine learning and data science. So, and several other fields. So what matters is that, again, you take the relevant courses and do projects, because right now how you show your ability in data science right now is not through a degree, because there are very few colleges that offer a degree in data science. You need to show that through your projects, your work experience, or through the courses you take. But in general, I mean, if you have a degree in say CS or electrical engineering, that is good enough from the degree perspective.
Okay, Deepak, please ask your question. I had unmuted you. And wait a minute, Deepak. If anyone wants to ask questions personally to him, like others are asking, you may raise your hand. Otherwise, we will take your chat.
Sir, I want to ask, what extent of domain knowledge required for ML engineer?
Sorry, what extent of
Domain knowledge.
yes?
Will it require more about domain knowledge, or little bit awareness is enough?
Okay. So as a data scientist or a data scientist intern, what matters the most is your domain knowledge in data science, right? So you need to be good with data science, machine learning, and your software engineering. So that is most crucial. But of course, wherever you go, any company will have its own domain. For example, I mentioned I work both in the healthcare domain and in the cybersecurity domain. And I knew almost nothing about either domain before joining. They did not even care to ask about it during the interviews, because typically the assumption is that you can learn that on the job. So there are specialists in that field, be it healthcare or cybersecurity or anything else. If you're working in a bank, then there would be machine learning researchers, but there would also be finance experts who will help you understand the financial aspects of it. So that domain knowledge is not crucial because you cannot keep learning new domains for every interview and every job that you attend, but be good at data science.
Side of one.
Yes. Hello, sir. Uh, First of all, before I ask my question, sir, I was looking at your profile and I was thinking that my career also should be like this. So thank you for speaking here. So this BSc degree, sir, some of us, we are doing it in a kind of like a part-time capacity along with another BTech offline degree. So I was wondering if you have some advice or what your views on doing this kind of things, doing something like this is.
So I think, first of all of you are getting the opportunity to study at IITM. And as I mentioned, the courses at IITM are offered at a very high level. I mean, it is world-class quality, right? Even if you go to the US or anywhere else, the standard of the course wouldn't rise a lot above this because it really helps you learn everything you need. But what matters is, since you're taking 2 degrees at a time, or this you're taking part-time, you need to make sure that you choose your courses correctly in the first place. Because if you take courses just so that you can reduce your load for that semester and kind of get through with a good grade, or pass exams and so on, that would not help. So first thing is, make good use of the opportunity to take courses that are relevant to your field of interest. Secondly, balance your workload. I mean, obviously, all of you would have a lot more workload than people who don't take this part-time course. So you need to make sure that you kind of balance your workload and get enough time to do projects or other things that also matter. But of course, be proud of the fact that you're getting the opportunity to study at IITM. It's a wonderful opportunity. So do make good use of it.
Okay, so now we have chat questions because no one has raised their hand. So Rajneesh has asked in chat, source to get research paper and case studies.
Okay.
Like you mentioned.
Yeah, good question. So if you want if you want to read research papers, first of all, there are hundreds of conferences. If you look within any field, if you say NLP, natural language processing, there are hundreds of conferences. A lot of these papers are, not worth reading in a way. You need to look at papers from good conferences. First thing you do, go to Google and search for, say, top 10 conferences in your field. So NLP or computer vision or deep learning. You get the names of those conferences. Then for each of those, you look, okay, so for example, ACL is the top conference in NLP. So go to the ACL latest website. So the last conference may have been held either in 2022 or 2023. So go to ACL 2023. You would see the full list of papers that were published in that year, first with the title. So first look at, which of these you are more interested in. So maybe you want to read something about using transformers for transformers in the healthcare domain, something like that. So look through that paper, and that's how you can do it. So first look for good conferences, then filter down papers within that conference.
Okay, Krishna is asking, like as our degrees are online, so how to approach professor for LOR as for our degree online? So there is no much personal interaction as our degrees online.
Right. So one really crucial thing is, if you want an LOR, especially a good LOR from a professor, just taking a course with that professor or having a brief interaction with the professor is not enough. So I got 3 LORs from 3 professors, and I had actually done research projects with all 3 of them. Now, the way it helps is, first of all, the professor knows you well. They know your strengths and weaknesses, and they would also be appreciative of the work that you've done while you were doing your research with them. So first thing is, whether it's at IITM or somewhere else that you're collaborating, make sure that you do a good research project with a professor. And before you start the project, do set your expectations. Do tell them that, in the long term, I am interested in getting an LOR for graduate studies. So would you be willing to do that? Because some people have been met up with surprises. Professors have said, okay, it's only if you do a PhD with me that I'll give an LOR. So there are challenges like that. So do set expectations right in your second or third meeting with them, and do some research with them to actually get an impactful LOR. Otherwise, I mean, it's a bit challenging, but in general, you could interact with them as much as possible during the courses itself. Ask good questions, get more clarifications on the theory, do good projects so that they take notice of you. But those, I would say, are less impactful methods of getting LORs. Another source of LOR, which I didn't use, is if you are working. So if you've done an internship somewhere or you've gone for a full-time job, then your manager or somebody else who is working in the data science field for some time, who has some publications in that field, could also get you an LOR.
Okay. So Shreya has asked that generally data science roles tend to be a senior role. So how would you suggest we get out our feet in the door? Do we go for data analyst roles first?
So right now, I believe, maybe 5-6 years back, it is true, but today companies do hire for data scientists even from a fresher role. I mean, even I got in that way, right? So I don't think that the assumption is entirely true. But it is true. I mean, they are more selective because data science jobs, a lot of people compete for a small number of jobs. So it does get challenging. So you can still go for a data analyst role and kind of migrate into data science. Probably data analyst is the closest role that you have to data science. So if you're really passionate about that career, then yes, do go ahead. Yeah.
Okay. Suyash is asking how can get more package data science or software engineer? Who can get? Maybe he want to ask who can get, but he wrote how.
Okay, so generally, I mean, packages for both data scientists and SDs, within a company is the same, right? They don't differentiate on the basis of that. Yeah, it will only matter from company to company. So suppose you get an SDE job at a higher company and a data science job at a lower company, then you've got to make a choice. So either you go for a few lakhs higher or you go for your dream career, right? So that option is entirely up to you. But if you're really passionate about data science, then I mean, you might have to take a hard call there. Don't just take a decision based on your package, because as I mentioned, you can always switch companies, but it's much harder to switch careers. So yeah, do take care of that.
Okay, Srishti has asked how to balance academics and extracurriculars. What would you advise a first year student for a head start on the profile building and how to get into research, how to get started?
Okay, so I think this is what I've largely covered through the deck. So how do you get into research? I've kind of answered it in these 5 steps, right? How do you balance academics and extracurriculars? I mean, that has been a challenge even for me. So what you need to do is, when you are focusing on your academics, try to learn smart, in the sense, if you are targeting for a particular career, instead of kind of taking on a lot of challenges, exploring a little bit of NLP, computer vision, and everything together, try to kind of focus on something that you're really interested in. That way, constrain yourself to some particular stream or field that you're interested in, and then go deep into that, so that no matter what kind of questions come up during your interviews, or if you want to do research in that field, you'll be good at it. So streamline the work that you do, make choices early on in terms of what you want to work on. Yeah.
Okay, so I think most of the questions are repeated, and those who are not repeated, you had already answered all of those questions. If anyone wants to ask another question, please ask, or we may end this meeting. We are waiting for your questions for 2 minutes. Okay,
Yes.
Ayush has raised his hand. I am unmuting him.
Hello, sir. As you have said earlier that projects do matter. So, in recent development of AI and machine learning, how do we get to know what project we should do to reflect on our profile that it is a good project?
Largely, it does not matter. I mean, you should choose a project based on what your level of understanding is. So if it's the first project that you're doing, you obviously cannot do it in generative AI or with GANs. You will have to start with something small, maybe a linear regression model, some kind of simple prediction problem that you can find on Kaggle, right? Then what you need to do is almost all of these fields I've listed, like NLP, computer vision, speech processing, deep learning, are all good fields to get into in the long run in your career. So read through research papers in each of these fields, figure out what interests you more. and then make a choice. But I feel all of these are very interesting fields to go into. So you need not be worried about choosing any of these.
Okay, and then Ayush, oh, there are a lot of people who want to ask. Guys, we may take only 3, 4 more questions. He also wants to, like, he also needs to do something else. We also to go. So we may take only 3 people more.
Okay.
Okay.
So I had this question like you said you also had to prepare for GRE and all. So how much does that hold value in your like resume when you apply for abroad admissions?
Yeah, it's very important. So of late, some universities have not been giving a lot of importance to GRE. So in fact, Stanford does not even consider your GRE score, but a lot of universities do. For example, I think CMU, UCLA, all of them do. It is important, not as important as it used to be, say, 4 or 5 years back. But your TOEFL is important. Every university asks for your TOEFL score. Some of them treat it just as a passing requirement to show that you have good English knowledge to take courses there. But otherwise also, I mean, in general, if you look at the profiles of people who've got into good universities, they will have good GRE TOEFL scores. So that is something you need to kind of do well. Yeah.
Okay, so and one more thing, like for example, if I have a good quant score instead of a good English score, because like my verbal is a bit weak, so can I ask the university for a grant in that one because like I want to do my work in the quants field as well, so I don't need.
No, generally it doesn't work. What you can do is say you have a good quant score and your verbal score is bad, you can retake the GRE. So I believe, if you take GRE twice, they will take the best score from each section. So say you did well in quant first time and in verbal the second time, then your actual score will be the sum of the best scores from each. Right. So that is something you can do. But generally, you do not get to ask for waivers from universities. Both scores are important, but I mean, your situation is a bit luckier because quant scores are slightly more important, but they do consider both. Yeah.
Okay, Krishna, ask your question, please.
Hi, sir. I had a doubt regarding the academic LOR. Can we get them from professors outside the IITM through research projects or internships? Or are we required to submit the LORs from the professors of the same institute we are studying?
Definitely, you can get it from anywhere. It really does not matter to them. What matters is that, first of all, you should know the professor well, and the professor should know you well. And secondly, kind of like the profile of the person who's recommending you also matters. I mean, generally, if you talk about getting it from somebody you've worked with, say I get it from just a colleague of mine who's almost at the same level as me, that will not be a very impressive LOR because you need the LOR to come from a person with good authority. So do look at the profile of the person who would be recommending you and make sure that they have experience in the machine learning data science space. They have good publications and things like that. But in general, if it's a professor, you can take it from anywhere. It does not matter.
Okay, Emil, I think there are a lot of questions. I think it is not possible for you to give answer for each and every question. People are asking questions continuously.
Let's take the last question. I think Yash has been having his hand raised. So we'll take that and then we'll close it.
Yeah, yes, please unmute yourself.
Yes, sir. Sir, how you got your first internship?
So that I actually applied online. GE kind of fortunately did consider my resume. So you have to apply to a lot of companies. You never know who might get to that interview call. But it was an online application.
So I think, by the way, it's a fun fact. He rejected my resume. I also applied to them. Okay. By the way, I think we had take a lot of questions, and thank you, Emil, for sharing your journey to answer questions of our people of our degree. You Thank you for taking your time. I know you are having a lot of too much busy schedule as you are going USA this Saturday, and you came. Thank you very much for accepting my proposal and sharing your journey with us. Thanks a lot. It means a lot, genuinely.
Sure. Thank you all for your time. It was great talking to all of you. Good luck. Bye.
Thank you, Emil.